Hello, and welcome to the Christian Habits Podcast. This is the podcast that will help you break free from your strongholds, draw closer to God, and develop habits that will help you love God and others better. And now, here's your host, Barb Raveling.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have all of you here today. And I am excited to have Hannah Brencher here today to talk about becoming unplugged. And Hannah is a writer. She's a TED speaker and an entrepreneur. She founded The World Needs More Love Letters, which is a global community dedicated to sending letter bundles to those who need encouragement. Named as one of the White House's Women Working to Do Good, Hannah's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Oprah, Glamour, USAtoday.com, the Chicago Tribune, and more. She lives in Atlanta with her husband, Lane, and daughter, Novalee. Find Hannah at hannahbrencher.com. Welcome to the podcast, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's good to have you here. I'm super excited about your topic because I think we all struggle a lot of times with too much phone, TV, whatever. And you talked about becoming unplugged. So first of all, why don't you just tell us, what do you mean by unplugged? Does that mean you just unplug all your devices, or what do you exactly mean by that?
Yeah. So when I say unplugged, I primarily mean being screen free. I feel like that is like the biggest culprit of the digital disconnect. And so it means being phone free, not watching like a show or, going on like a marathon with shows. It means not being on email, not being in browsers, generally not being on your computer. So anything where there is a screen, unplugged hours is taking time away from the screen. I think the only exception that I personally make in my own life is my Kindle, because yes, it's a screen, but there's no chance to browse anywhere else. It's just books.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And so what prompted you to write the book?
So the book came out of a challenge that I had created for myself in 2021. I unplugged for 1,000 hours across 1 year. And the core of that was really wanting to determine if I could strike a balance. I wanted to know if there was a way to be technologically plugged in, but also be deeply present to life around me, because I'm somebody who, I think probably like a lot of other people, like I need email for work. I use social media for work. I don't necessarily think these tools are bad. And I personally don't want to like throw these tools away and like go live off in the woods. But at the same time, I could tell that these tools were taking from me. And so I set out to unplug for 1,000 hours in a year to see if that would change anything. I was not anticipating the complete life shift that I would experience from cultivating a discipline of unplugging, but it has been so amazing, so life-giving to me. And after I completed the year, a few months after was when I was like, oh, I do think that there is a book here. And so I set out to write the book.
Right. And it's interesting because the book is called The Unplugged Hours, Cultivating a Life of Presence in a Digitally Connected World. And then you introduced the idea of doing the 1,000 Unplugged Hours Challenge, which I think you already mentioned. So what are you suggesting people do when they read this book?
Yeah, so the book is not set up like a how-to book or a book that's going to tell you, here's the 5 things that you have to do. I didn't really want to write one of those books because I believe that we have a lot of noise out there. We have a lot of people already being like, here's what we have to do, but I think if I had written that book, it would have been very simple. It would have just been like, turn off your phone and keep turning off your phone. But what I hope people come across in this book is, stories and revelations and thoughts that make them think about their own phone habits and their screen habits. I included the 1,000-hour tracker in there for somebody who does want to embark on their own 1,000-hour journey, whether they do that in a year, whether they do that in 8 months, whether it takes a year and a half. On the other side of the challenge, I no longer think like, hey, you have to do this within 1 year. I think the bigger and more important part is just, if you start it, commit to finishing it, no matter how long it takes, because you will look back on all of those hours unplugged, and each one will be an hour that you gained back, regardless of what time frame you did it in.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've also thought of writing a book on how to how to let go of the phone or whatever. And then I tried different things. And as soon as I took the apps off my phone that I did, that I used too much, all of a sudden I didn't struggle with it. And I thought, well, that wouldn't be a very long book. So all you have to do is take the apps off, or as you say, turn off your phone, or you even talk about getting a little box to put it in, right?
Yeah, putting it into, that's how I primarily do it, especially if it's during the day where I can't turn off my phone. My daughter is at school or somebody may need me for a work call. I just turn the ringer on and I put it inside of a box. And to your point, I think, yeah, there really isn't much to be said about like how we do this. There's a variety of ways in which we can do this, whether it is taking apps off your phone or putting your phone in a box. But when it came time to write the book and outline the book, it was from the realization, because I generally thought, I don't think there's a book here. Like, what could I actually write a book about? But the book ended up being about so much more. It became about all of the things that I had gained in the unplugging, which was a mindset shift for me. Because I think when we talk about the phone, we just talk about like what you need to get rid of. But there was so much that emerged, new creativity, wonder, shifts in my faith. And so that ended up being what I wrote about.
Yeah, and that was really interesting, all those things you talked about. So how did it affect your faith?
So I didn't realize how much my faith had been affected until I started unplugging, that I started to realize like, oh, like my quiet time has been really distracted. Or I think if we're not careful, it can easily become something that we do, that we just check off a box and we move on with the rest of our day. But by eliminating the noise and all that excess noise, I started to find moments throughout the day to meet with God and to read more of his word and to really feel like I was digging my heels deep into the present moment. I think, especially as a content creator, as a Christian writer, it's easy to get into that mode where you read something and you immediately think, oh, I could write about that. Oh, I could share that. Oh, that's good. And I had lost a part of my faith where it was just for me. It was just me and God, and he was depositing things into me. And so that's something that came back through the unplugging that has been beautiful and been so necessary that I didn't even realize it was lacking. But I say a lot, like, my faith through the unplugging has returned to what it once was, which was a lifeline.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had that experience too in quiet times when I get some sort of insight and I realize, I think too, oh, I could share this, but I just put a little note off to the side of my journal. Or actually, I know I have an index at the very beginning and I just write down page number, procrastination or something. I have these long lists in all my journals of things I could write about. I usually never go back and write about them, but at least it gets it off my mind so it doesn't interrupt my quiet time. Yeah. But I think too, you talked too about just being present, that you're trying to learn how to live an unhurried present life. So what does that look like?
Well, I think we see examples of it, especially in the life of Jesus all over the Bible. Like he isn't calling us to a life of hurry. He isn't calling us to a life of hustle. And you can see that in the way that he lived his life. Even though he had a very short ministry, he was highly available to people. And wherever he was attentive in that moment. And before I started unplugging, that was not my priority. I loved hustling. I loved moving to the next thing. I loved milestones, checking things off a list. I think that is partially what drove me to have a 1,000-hour unplug challenge. It's like, oh, I never met a challenge that I didn't love. But the more that I unplugged and got away from the noise, those messages of just like be more, do more, try harder, all of that just kind of started to slip away. And I felt like I could hear the actual voice of God in daily life, the voice of God that did coincide with the voice of God in the Bible. And that was softer and it was more intimate and it was tender and it was about slowing down and setting the pace and not hurrying. And one of the most beautiful things that happened for me, especially as somebody who was prone to saying a lot, like, I don't have enough time, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have enough time, is that God taught me how to go moment to moment and hour by hour. And the hour became my new currency for life, whether that's an unplugged hour or that's in a busy day. Like, let's just be in this hour and be present in this hour. And then we move to the next hour.
I like that, because when I was reading the book, I was thinking, how do you set boundaries with the phone? And it's like, I know how to set boundaries with food, like with the TV. I don't really watch TV anyway, but since you need the phone for some things, I haven't really figured out how to set boundaries. And I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about that, because I know you suggest just doing an hour at a time, and I can see the value of that. But sometimes I wonder if I wouldn't like to have, okay, in the morning, you don't get on your phone or something. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Or what's the difference
Totally.
of those two?
There's a bunch of different things that you can set into motion. And I think it's different for each person. And so, like, I will say, when I did start unplugging, that alone that allowed me to have better boundaries, not because I was taking something away, but because I was adding something to my life. And so naturally, I felt a little bit more free with my devices because I could see the results of the beauty of unplugging. But I think that there's a variety of different boundaries, whether it is taking certain apps off your phone. For me, I don't have email on my phone because I don't want to be checking my email in the checkout line or when I'm, waiting in the carpool line. I don't feel like me sitting on my phone responding to an email is the intention that I want to put behind the emails I'm responding to. And so I took email off my phone. I had an instance yesterday where they were like, oh, just open it up on your email app. And I'm like, I don't have that. And that's okay, because like, it's more so for my peace rather than for the convenience of others around me. If you don't want to be having your phone in the morning, I would say one of the best things you can do is literally invest in like a $10 alarm clock rather than being woken up by your phone. Put your phone in another room, put your phone off to the side, turn your phone off completely if you are able to do that, and then wake up to the alarm clock, move into the first part of your day, and make that first part of your day about checking in with yourself rather than checking in with the world around you. And so there are little parameters that I think can be set throughout your day. There are a lot of apps out there that are very helpful for being able to track your unplugged hours if you don't want to use a paper tracker. But as you go along the journey, you start to learn your own hacks and your own oh, I really liked this routine phone free. I want to try that again.
Yeah, imagine if you tried the little 1 hours during the day to make your whole goal. Is it 5,000 hours? I can't remember.
1,000.
1,000 hours. Okay. So if you tried different hours to make your 1,000 goal, you could kind of see which hours were really helpful. And I'm with you, like on the email. I take my email app off my phone too. And I feel like that's super helpful. And not only that, it helps me not read my emails without answering them, because it's hard for me to answer them on my phone. And so I read them, then I don't answer them. And then you have a long list of unanswered emails. Yep. And then also too, it's really easy to put them back on in case somebody's listening, like, oh, that sounds like too much work. I found it's really easy to put them back on the phone again too. It doesn't take long if you need them. And then also it keeps you from you're waiting in line at the post office. Then you might visit with the person next to you instead of being on your phone doing things, right?
Yep, exactly. Just to be in a moment of stillness, of not doing anything, I often will just leave my phone in the car when I go into the post office if I have to stand in the line. And it's kind of a little bit boring and mundane, but I'm there and I'm looking around and I'm in the moment, at least trying to practice presence rather than having that easy escape hatch where I'm oh, well, I'll just be doing other things on my phone.
Yeah. And so how would you define presence? I can't remember if you've already defined that for us.
That's such an interesting question that I've had to navigate, because there is a story that I share in the book about, going to a class that I was teaching on presence and asking people, their best examples of presence, and somebody raised their hand and they're like, can we get an example? I don't really know what presence means. And a lot of the people in the room also felt the same way. And I was like, we're entering into this generation coming up where they may not ever fully know or understand what true presence means. But for me, I think presence comes down to your attention and where you're placing your attention. So if you're sitting across from somebody at lunch or a coffee date, you are fully with them and fully present with them. If you are making a meal, your attention is on making that meal rather than doing a million different things at once just because you can. If I'm with my daughter, and the phone is away, it's like I am practicing presence with her by giving her my attention. And I think because of the phones and because of the culture surrounding the phones, we have become so programmed to think I can always be doing three things at once. When in actuality, so much more joy and peace comes from learning to go thing by thing and give that thing, whatever it is, our full presence when we can.
Yeah, it's so interesting because presence comes really easily to me when I'm with people because I feel like I'm just engaged and enjoying with them. And I'm not a person who's, always trying to get things done. And then with the quiet time too, it comes pretty easily for me if I'm engaged in doing a Bible study or journaling or something. But I have a hard time being present anytime my mind's not active because I get easily bored. So like if I'm in the kitchen cooking, I wouldn't want to be present. I'd rather be listening to a podcast or something or talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And I practiced this on a hike. We were hiking, and whenever we're climbing a mountain or going up a pass, usually my husband and I do some sort of coaching or something that keeps my mind engaged so I don't get too tired. And I thought, I'm going to try and be present. I think I was reading your book. It was after I was reading your book. And so I'm looking at, look at that little bush, or look at those little plants, look at the pebbles. And it was so interesting because it's kind of like communing with God, looking at all the things he created and being present and kind of talking to him too. And that's not something I normally do because I'm so easily bored.
I totally get that. And I also am just like, there's nothing wrong with, like, oh, I'm going to be doing the dishes and I'm going to watch a show or I'm going to listen to a podcast or whatever. I think it's having that moment with yourself that I've had where it's like, okay, but like, do I need this noise? Can I take a break from this noise? Can I be in this moment? And sometimes it's good just to practice that without the stimulation. But I totally get what you mean with the hiking. Like I was just in New York last week for a trip and I wanted to go walking around the city because I used to live there. That was like my commute. And I intentionally was like, but I'm not going to plug into something. Like I could plug into a podcast or music or whatever, but like, why don't I just be in the moment? Why don't I just see the sights and the sounds and the smells and be fully engaged in it and fully present in it? Because honestly, that's really where a lot of my concern and part of the story started is when I lived in New York. That was 10 years ago, but like, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, it feels like everybody's always looking down at their phones. It feels like everybody is always somewhere else. And now it's like a given, no matter where you go, people are going to be on their phones. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm not doing it in order to be like, I'm better than everybody else. I'm here. I'm present. It's practice for me to be able to be like, can I be rooted in this moment? Even if it's uncomfortable, because you probably notice that. It's like, it's not always comfortable to be fully present, but you get more used to it the more you practice. And now I think what's really beautiful is that I have become so comfortable with like being with myself, or like I did a 40-minute drive the other day where like I didn't turn on anything. I was just there in my thoughts, thinking through things, imagining things. And I was like, I haven't done that in so long because I'm so used to wanting to be entertained or learn something or make the most of every moment, every chance I get.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it also gives you room to talk to God then. So if you're not always being listening to something else, you talk to God. Or also if I am listening to a podcast, sometimes, I'll get some insight from it. So then I'll turn the podcast off, talk to God about it, put it back on again. So that's one of the things I like in your book. One quote here is, for years, I thought my life was on pause until X finally happened, or fill in the blank. The blank is different for all of us. Life will start happening when the job comes through, the right person walks in, the bassinet is filled, the jeans fit, the healing comes, the ring is on the left finger. So long as you think the answer is in that thing, I'm afraid it will never be enough. When you manage to get that thing, a new something rises to fill its place. Another hole will always need filling until you decide to stop digging holes altogether. So tell me a bit about that. Is that about presence, because when I read that, I thought, I think I actually reviewed that this morning when I was getting ready for this interview. And I'm thinking, oh, that's what I'm doing today. I have 2 interviews today. And I'm waiting till I get done with my interviews so I can do other things. And so I don't know, tell me a little bit about what you said there, because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I think the bigger message in that chapter is about, correct me if I'm wrong, that is in the chapter about contentment. And
I think it was. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think I tried to explore all the different elements of what a life of digital connectivity has, trained us and programmed us to be like. And that was something that I noticed is like, if I'm on social media, if I'm on email, if I'm anywhere on the phone that can advertise to me, there's always another thing, right? There's always another, oh, I could buy that thing. Oh, I could do that thing. Oh, that's an event that I could go to. And so it always becomes about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I've learned a lot through unplugging how to just be rooted in the moment and say, it's enough. I don't need more. And that was something really surprising to me when I did start turning off the phone, was like, oh, a lot of that noise was just coming through the phone because I wasn't being a very good gatekeeper of what was coming in and what was being allowed in. To your point, though, which I think is something a little bit different, but I feel it all the time. It's like, oh, I just need to get done with X, Y, and Z. And then I'll be done and I can go on and do other things. And my husband is always helping me practice this of like, hey, like, go into each thing, enjoy it, believe that God has something for you in it, and then move on to the next thing. But don't treat them as hurdles that you have to get over. And I'm like chronic, everything is a hurdle in my schedule until I can like curl up with a blanket and read a book, but that's something I've had to learn to practice as well. It's like, okay, like God, like you've put this stuff on my calendar. You've set this day into motion. Where do you want me to show up? And where do you want me to be fully present to be with the person that is right in front of me? If it is a Zoom call, if it is a lunch, if it is going to Target later on, like God, I believe that you operate and do miracles all over everyday life, but I will miss them if my eyes are not open to see them.
Yeah, it's interesting because those, the interviews, the hurdles that we talk about, they're kind of in the back of my mind, have to getting done. But I think the phone can be the same way. If the phone is in the same room, it can be like a presence. And it's like, oh, I should check that. As soon as you have a thought that, oh, I should check that. To me, I wish we could get Google off our phone or, whatever maybe it's not Google, whatever the internet app is.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't think you can take that off the phone, right? I tried to, and it didn't seem like I could.
It may be one of the ones that is just stuck on there.
Yeah.
But and I totally agree with you because like we'll watch a movie or whatever and I'll be like, oh, who is that person? Who's that actor? And this and that. And it's great. Like it's great to have that information at our fingertips. But we used to wonder. We used to just think about it, right? Like we used to live in a little bit of mystery until we could get to an encyclopedia and like look it up. And like it's just interesting to be moving around the world with like these little computers in our pockets where there is no need to wonder or think about it or critically think sometimes.
And not only that, if you stop to look it up, whatever you're wondering, then that relaxation is interrupted or the work is interrupted or whatever it is you're doing, it's interrupted. I notice it so much when I go backpacking, because when we go backpacking, we might be out for 4 days, no internet. And I just feel like my mind is so peaceful, so creative, because I don't have any internet, no phone for 4 days except to take pictures.
Yeah. And that's where I think it's funny because I think like, in a lot of these conversations, people necessarily are thinking, well, if I am going to unplug, then I need to do that. I need to backpack. I need to leave. I need to go somewhere. And I'm like, you can actually do that right here in your home and experience that same kind of peace and freedom. Like, because like even as a mom, I think sometimes like, yes, motherhood can be really hard, but like when I turn off the phone and I get fully present, I'm like, oh, I'm far less irritated. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm thinking about how to add to the moment rather than it's every time I grab for the phone. Like you said, the relaxation is cut and I become scattered again.
Right. Yeah. So what if somebody is listening to this and they're resonating with it? They're like, oh yeah, that's me. I have that struggle. What would you suggest they do?
I would say start small if you do want to start unplugging. It doesn't even have to be an hour. Could you try for 15 minutes? Could you pick a task that you've said for a while you've wanted to do? Like, trying out a new recipe, going through a cookbook, reading a book, getting a workout in. Could you get away from the phone to do that one thing and then come back to the phone and it will all be right there? But like, you will feel so much better for it, like think about the routines that you want to build into your daily life, the person that you want to become, and just start with one thing and build from there. So like for me right now in this season, like building a bedtime routine where I'm not on my phone, I'm not scrolling, my phone is put away, and I get into bed with a cup of tea and read at night. And it has been so life-giving to me, but also I'm seeing the results of it of like, oh, I'm reading so much more because I'm making time for this thing rather than letting my time go to this device that I can't even tell you what I scrolled through 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, I just had this quick thought.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask it earlier, but you talked about the little box that you put the phone in. How do you, because don't you have to, like, I feel like I need to charge it, but if it's in the box, it can't be charged. So that's just a logistics thing. But what do you do with that? If you put it in the box, can it be charging while it's in the box?
So I put the phone in my box when I'm like doing things in my office or wanting to be present, but it does not. It's just a literal tin box from IKEA that doesn't have a charger that goes with it. So logistically, probably not the best solution if you're trying to charge the phone. What I will do at night or at random times in the day is just charge my phone somewhere else where I don't have it in my reach and then come back to it when I need it. But again, there are also really great apps. Like one of the apps off the top of my head that I love that I've been utilizing, it's called Aro, which is ARO. And all you have to do is open up the app, you click start a session, and you flip your phone over. And when you flip your phone over, it starts tracking your unplugged time.
Ooh,
and so when you
interesting.
flip it, yeah, it's amazing. And then you get to track, like I did it last night, like while I was like picking up the house. And I flipped it back over and I got to track like, okay, 45 minutes spent cleaning. And then it like keeps all your data and allows you to see how present you've been, which that's where I think tech can be really beautiful to help us advance in these areas that we want to get better in.
Yeah, that's great. And you have a tracker in the book, and I think you can also download one on your website, right?
Yep. We have a variety of different trackers. And then the tracker, as you said, is in the book.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us where to find you online, also maybe where to find that tracker online, and where to get the book.
Yeah, so everything is at hannahbrencher.com. And then I am Hannah Brencher on all social media platforms. The book is called The Unplugged Hours, and it is available everywhere that books are sold.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to share about that. I think this is something we all need help with. I'm guessing everybody listening to this can gain something from what you said, because we all need the help. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, and thank you guys for coming today, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Christian Habits Podcast. If you'd like more help with stopping and starting habits, check out Barb's blog at www.barbraveling.com.